Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and as I like to remind you each and every day, it expands our base. Yesterday, I watched Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, give testimony before the House of Representatives. It was a horrific experience because the Republicans were determined to accuse Merrick Garland of everything under the sun. It was not a reasonable expression of concern, as, by the way, Merrick Garland's testimony was supposed to be, focused on the functioning of the Attorney General's office. But indeed, what the Republicans did was to try to accuse Merrick Garland of being out to get Donald Trump, of being out to, subvert justice in the United States. It was a disgraceful display by the Republicans. But it's interesting to note that Speaker Johnson yesterday described Joe Biden as the worst president in American history. Did you hear that? Worse than James Buchanan, worse than Franklin Pierce. Well, you can go on with the worst of America's presidents. But it demonstrates something that to me is, very disturbing. Partisanship is part of American politics. You can go to any campaign in any era and hear and see the partisanship. But what the Republicans are doing now is really wrong. They are out to get Joe Biden no matter what he says, no matter what he does. And there is no quarter to be gained in this. Indeed, one of the most interesting aspects of all of this was the article in the Wall Street Journal accusing Joe Biden of being cognitively diminished. And of course, the Republicans and the right-wing media immediately jumped on it to say Joe Biden is not only the worst president, but he's unfit to be president today. Well, let's be clear. If Joe Biden is unfit to be president, the American people will make that judgment on November 5th. If Joe Biden really is the worst president in the history of our country, as Speaker Johnson suggests, the American people will render that judgment on November the 5th. If Joe Biden is cognitively impaired, as is being stated by Republicans and by right-wing media talking points, then the Republicans and the Democrats ought to get together if there's a genuine concern and have Joe Biden examined by a neutral body. Let's be clear about this. To accuse the President of the United States of being cognitively impaired when he is conducting the affairs of state, when he will leave later today to go to Europe, where he will commemorate the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. That's tomorrow, where he will deliver a major speech. If Joe Biden were so cognitively impaired, I don't think he could do what he's doing. So my suggestion to the Republicans is, if you're going to criticize Joe Biden, do it on substance. You want to argue with him about his policy on the border? Go for it. You want to argue with his relations with Putin? Go for it. You want to argue about Ukraine? Go for it. But the Republicans are doing something that is, I hate to use the word, but it's despicable. They are going after Joe Biden, the Speaker of the House, calling him the worst president in American history, challenging his cognitive awareness, essentially accusing him of weaponizing the Justice Department. They are accusing him of all sorts of things. Well, I do know, and I'm smart enough to understand, that there is dissatisfaction in the United States with Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee and Donald Trump as the Republican nominee. After all, you have a man who is now a convicted felon who will be the nominee of the Republican Party unless something happens for the presidency of the United States. It means that when we examine these candidates for president, there are going to be pluses and minuses. And yes, I will, on Around the Political World with John Rothman, analyze the pluses and minuses. But there is no doubt in my mind that those who are out to get Joe Biden, no matter what, well, they're going to keep trying. And that brings me to Hunter Biden. You would think that the major story on a major so-called news network would be what's going on in the world, but no, they are focused on Hunter Biden. So I want to make my position crystal clear. Ever since the Hunter Biden issue was raised, I've said, let's have a thorough investigation. Let's take a look. Let's see what the truth of the matter is. And if he's guilty and he's in court, let him be convicted. But for the Republicans to try to hang on Joe Biden, the actions of his son, Hunter, seems to me, well, to be not the way to go. If the Republicans want to tackle Joe Biden, let them do it on the issues. And if they really believe that he's unfit to be president of the United States, if they really believe he's the worst president in American history, make the case to the American people. Because in the end, on November 5th, the American people will make that critical judgment. Now, let's separate something else. I am a Democrat today because the Republican Party is, to me, unfit to lead. Their leadership in the House and in the Senate has demonstrated that repeatedly. Their positions on issues, whether it is Roe v. Wade or the question of Ukraine or the questions, well, involving a whole host of issues, including the border, I don't agree with them. And therefore, I am going to vote for the Democratic nominee for president. Because the last thing I want to see is the Republicans in control of government. All you have to do is examine their positions, their stands. So let me conclude by saying this. If people are unhappy with Trump, if people are unhappy with Biden, well, the people have spoken in terms of the nominating conventions. Unless something dramatic happens, they will be the nominees, and we will have to make a choice. It may be a Hobson's choice in the minds of many, but to me, it is a choice between which direction America will go in and where it won't go. It's just that simple. So we now have decisions to make, important decisions to make about the future of our nation. In just a few weeks, there will be a debate on CNN. We will see Biden and Trump face off against each other. Let's see how they do. And let's remember, for those who challenge either one, in the end, the real challenge will be for the American people, what we decide to do on November 5th. Not only with the presidency, but with the House and the Senate. These are important times, much to be considered. And the American people, well, we have to be up for the challenge. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World. I am John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand. Facebook and LinkedIn are the vehicles which you can use to interact with me, and I hope you will. And special appreciation to the wonderful producer of this podcast, Go-Go Zoger, who makes sure Around the Political World with John Rothman is up and running each and every day. I'll see you tomorrow, right here, Around the Political World with John Rothman.